1, 2. Dumelang. Sanbanani. My name is Karabo L, and together we are Influx. Do enjoy. So the song is called Lizzie, and it's by our fellow comrade, well, the late Brahim Masikela. you. How? I will. I comrades, no. You can't do this to me. I'm your fellow comrade. So you must cheer for me, eh? I'm in your PCO, so you'll be coming to the office on Monday. Never know how much I love you. You never know how much I care. When you put your arms around fever that's so hard to burn, you give me fever. When you touch me, and fever when you hold me tight. Fever in the morning and fever all through the night. Romeo loves Juliet, and Juliet, she loves him so. When he puts his arms around her, he says, Julie, baby, you're the thing that gives me fever. When you touch me, and fever when you hold me tight. Fever in the morning and fever all through the night. Captain Smith and Pocahontas, they had a very mad affair. When her daddy tried to kill him, he says, Daddy, oh, don't you dare. He gives me fever when he touched me, and fever when he holds me tight. Fever, yeah, in the morning and fever all through the night. 'Cause everybody's got the fever. This is something we all have. Fever isn't such a new thing. What a lovely way to burn. 'Cause everybody's got the fever. This is something we all have. Fever isn't such a new thing. What a lovely way to burn. He give me fever, 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 fever. When he holds me tight. Fever in the morning and fever all through the night. It gives me fever when he touches me, and fever when he holds me tight. Fever in the morning and fever all through the night. 'Cause everybody's got the fever. This is something we all have. Fever isn't such a new thing. What a lovely way to burn. 'cause everybody's got the fever. This is something we all have. Fever isn't such a new thing. What a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn, yeah. What a lovely way to burn. Thank you. Was a wamusha umuntu, was a wamusha umntana umuntu, awubheka ibheshu likhuluma indaba, insizwa siphelele, insizwa siphelele, awubheka ibheshu likhuluma indaba, insizwa siphelele, insizwa siphelele. Angaze ngithanda umuntu the way ngikuthanda ngakhona, angaze ngigcwale the way ngigcwale ngakhona. Inhliziyo yami ishaya kancane, amehlo akho ayangibulala. Awungiyacela, mina ngiyacela, baby ngiyacela ukuhamba nawe. Awungiyacela, baby ngiyacela, mina ngiyacela ukuhamba nawe. Was a wamusha umuntu, was a wamusha umntana umuntu, awubheka ibheshu likhuluma indaba, insizwa siphelele, insizwa siphelele. Awubheka ibheshu likhuluma indaba, insizwa siphelele, insizwa siphelele. Angaze ngithanda umuntu the way ngikuthanda ngakhona, angaze ngigcwale the way ngigcwale ngakhona. Inhliziyo yami ishaya kancane, amehlo akho ayangibulala. Mina baby ukuhamba nawe. Woza mina oh baby ukuhamba nawe. Cula kamnandi kanjani correct futhi. Awungiyacela, baby ngiyacela, mina ngiyacela ukuhamba nawe. Nize kuphi kanti? Mina oh baby ukuhamba nawe. Futhi awungiyacela, baby ngiyacela, mina ngiyacela ukuhamba nawe. waze wamuhla umuntu, waze wamuhla umntana umuntu, waze wamuhla umuntu, waze wamuhla umntana umuntu. Thank you. So I had to go back and study the music of black people in order for my growth in politics. And I also had to understand that music and politics have some kind of chemistry. Lagushonilanga peshe akolwandle nakucinga ngawe lagushonilanga yakuvelinyanga zakubuyinkomo nakucinga ngawe lagushonilanga ngizohamba ngikufuna ezindlini nasezitradweni ezibhedlela ezitrongweni ndide ndikufumane lagushonilanga phesheya kolwandle nakucinga ngawe lagushonilanga yakuvelinyanga zakubuyinkomo nakucinga ngawe lagushonilanga ngizohamba ndikufuna ezindlini nasezitradweni ezibhedlela ezitrongweni ndide ndikufumane lakushonilanga phesheya kolwandle ndakucinga ngawe lakushonilanga yakuvelinyanga zakuvelinkomo ndakucinga ngawe lakushonilanga ngizohamba ndikufuna ezindlini nasezitradweni ezibhedlela ezitrongweni ndide ndikufumane. Let's welcome our honorable guest. And I'm about to sing your song, Mama. I'm about to sing your song, Mama. I'm about to. You know the song, right? It's a luta continua. Ah, give over. Okay.
One, two.
Wenyamaza, 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 wenyamaza.
Hello?
Wenyamaza, 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 wenyamaza.
One, two, one, two, one, two. One, two, one, two.
Testing, testing. One, two.
Abandla. Sibilele. Sitini magunjeje, sitini magunjeje, sitini magunjeje, sitini magunjeje, alalunjeje, sitini magunjeje. Sitini magunjeje, sitini magunjeje, sitini magunjeje, sitini magunjeje, sitini magunjeje.
Testing, testing. 1, 2, testing.
Yeah, this way. Yeah. Otene magunjeje.
Papina labo mama.
Otene magunjeje.
Lele machele.
Otene magunjeje.
Tina siyabuza.
Otene magunjeje.
Tina sinemibuzo.
Otene magunjeje.
Tina siyabuza.
Otene magunjeje.
Tina sinemibuzo.
Otene magunjeje.
Papina labo mama.
Testing, testing. 1, 2, testing. Good. Testing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and non-gender conforming persons who are in this room tonight. Let us welcome you to this prestige event, an event organized by the Johannesburg SMME Chamber, Business Chamber, to speak mainly about the opportunities that we must be able to create, the opportunities that exist, and the policies that we must be able to craft, as mainly most of us are members of the African National Congress going to our national conference in just a few weeks to come. My name is Binky. I am going to be your program director for tonight. I am not alone. I am with the short guy, Uyams it, and he will greet you when he takes the podium. We're going to be doing this program interchangeably. We wish that we can be the bestest of hosts for you tonight. And you are welcome. You look beautiful. Relax. Umama ukhona. Ndiyaphinda ndisho futhi ndithi abantwana, they must relax because umama ukhona. Before we continue with our program, I am a firm believer that there is nothing we can do without inviting the one who knew that today we were destined to be here, and invite him to direct a program yetu in the manner that he intended for it to proceed. We are going to ask Umamo Rebecca to come and open with a short prayer for us before we officially kickstart our program. For the sake of time, I am going to request that we do not sing any song. We just prepare our hearts as she is coming to the front, and she leads us into the prayer, and then we continue with our program from there. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Molweni, zihlobo zami ezithandekayo enkosini. Ngibhekise konke kuNkulunkulu. Ngithi sihole baba kuze kube kunaphakathi. Bengicela sonke sivalena amehlo, abo baba abathola izigqoko bazibeke phansi. Egameni lenkosi yethu uJesu Kriste, ntambama yanamhlanje baba oyingcwele onamandla, siyakumema phakathi kule nhlangano esikuyo. Iba nathi baba usihole usilondoloze, ngoba lelizwe esikulo baba ilizwe lenhlupheko. Simema wena Jehova onamandla, iba nathi inkosi yethu, uhambe nathi usilondoloze. Naba bomama phambi kobuso bakho Jehova, bambe ngesandla sakho somusa, ubaqinise baba oyingcwele, ubayenze babe bahle, ngoba la sikhona lana akumnandanga baba. Kodwa ngicela uNkulunkulu wethu, ngibeka nangu umama wethu, umama omdala, umama osiphethe, umama othi noma sikhala kuye athi ngikhona abantwana bami, asabele Jehova olungileyo. Ngena nathi konke esizokhuluma okuzoba kuphume phakathi kuwe Jehova olungileyo. Noma singazwani uNkulunkulu wami, kube wena osilungisayo. Ngicela usilungise baba, ngicela usingathe, umsingathe umama, umupha amandla aqine, ngoba uyena osilondolozayo baba. Phambi kwakho singena ngaye uNkulunkulu onamandla baba, siyakumema namhlanje ntambama masilana uNkulunkulu wami. Iba nathi sibangabantwana bakho, la sikonele khona usilungise, nala singafika ngakhona usingezele. Siyakumema, iba nathi phakathi kule nhlangano Jehova olungileyo. Siyakubonga Nkosi yami ngoJesu Kriste, amen.
No, uThixo uvile umthandazo. So uvile. Okay, thanks my colleague Pinky. We're going to try to rush through the program, as we would have noted that we have started a bit late, as it was stated, and we would like to apologize on behalf of the host for inconveniencing some of you. My name is Yamkela Fanis, as stated. I'm co-hosting with Pinky, my colleague here. I think there's no doubt amongst all of us that SMMEs play a critical role in the economy, especially in job creation. And one of the most important things that we need to think about as ANC is going to go to a conference is to beg and engage ANC delegates to speak about these important issues. We just came out of COVID, which also hit hard our economy and especially SMMEs, which might have led to many SMMEs not performing very well, shedding some of the jobs and the cost of businesses being high. So these conversations like this are very important in terms of being put into context that SMMEs are very important in terms of playing a role in our economy. And that's why I think it was important for us to have this conversation. But without wasting any time, I'm going to call the RSC member, Bruce, to give us the purpose of today. Comrade Bruce, please come forward. Oh, welcome remarks by Makosini. Sorry. Please come forward. Send Pambil.
Amandla. Amandla. Viva Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, viva. Viva Comrade NDZ, viva. Watinta bafazi. Comrades, I would like to welcome all of you to this auspicious occasion. I also want to thank each and every single comrade here and each and every single business person in this particular hall. Also, I would like to thank Umama for taking time in her busy schedule to come and meet with the business community of Johannesburg, in fact, of Gauteng in general, Johannesburg in particular. I would also like to thank our distinguished guests, Umam Daphne Nkosi, who is a well-renowned business leader. And you'll note I said business leader. As Umama Wetu, she has led the business community, both in Africa and also internationally. I would like to thank Ma'am Daphne Nkosi for gracing us with her presence as well. I would like to thank each and everyone again, comrades, for being here. My name is Makosini Kharodi. I am the secretary of the Greater Johannesburg SMME Chamber of Commerce. This is the chamber that was initiated by the leadership of the ANC, which is sitting in front of us. And I would like to also thank them for being here. Comrade Julius Maputla, who is an RSC member of the ANC, also the leader of business in Johannesburg, the head of subcommittee of the African National Congress, in the name of Comrade Bruce Sarela, who, by the way, leads this particular portfolio within the organization, which means the ANC does care about small business. So I would like to thank you, comrades, for gracing us with your presence. And also another fellow RSC member in Comrade Tutu Zuma, who's also here. I would like to thank you, comrades, for coming here today and gracing us with our presence. And there's also leadership of the provinces, leadership of branches, leadership of the business community. We welcome you all. And also, I have my colleagues here from the Greater Johannesburg Chamber, SMME Chamber, Comrade Khomotso Talane, who's the treasurer of the chamber, who basically put this event together. As we all know, anything that is touched by women always succeeds. And I think as men, if we can recognize that fact, we will never go wrong. So thank you, Comrade Khomotso, for being here and assisting and making sure that this event happens. Like Achilo, the MC, that mine is not to take a lot of time, but to just introduce the reason why we are here. The main reason why we're here is to celebrate our women in business. Is to celebrate Abu Mama Betu in particular, Abu Mama Betu in society. Because it is the women that makes it possible. And if there's anything I know about women is that they always show up. That's why Sister said we were tinta bafazi, we were tinta mbokoto. It is for that reason that as a chamber, we felt that it was important to have this event, this Gala Dinner, to celebrate our women, but also to be clear for our support for Comrade Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma to lead this country, because it's been 110 years of the ANC, and until today the ANC has never had a female president, and we remain unapologetic. And we are saying Comrade Nkosazana Zuma must be the president of South Africa. And we are saying this as business, and we are very, very clear about that. By the way, some of us, we also lead branches. I also sit here or stand here. Well, I know I may look like I'm sitting, but I stand here as a chairperson of a branch in Johannesburg called AZ 193, Dr. Ms. Mteklu. And the leadership of the branch is here to also categorically state it clear that in our correcting BGM, we nominated Comrade Nkosazana Zuma to be the president of the African National Congress. Amanda.
I think we forgot something. For the purposes of nature, I didn't state that the bathrooms are on the ground floor, on your left when you're looking on this side. So, yeah, in case someone needs them. Now we're going to move forward. We're going to get the ANC perspective on the SMME, and it's going to be led by the head of economic transformation in the RC of Johannesburg, and we are going to call Bruce Cyril.
Okay, thank you very much. In fact, I was checking this thing and measuring your height and that of the MC. At least, my friend, there's someone that you're tall to. Thank you very much. Allow me, comrades, to greet all of you, to greet our NEC member, our minister as well, who's here with us, Comrade Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, to also greet Umama Daphne Kosi. As my Comrade Makosini has put it, that a leader also in business. Fellow RSC members who are here, Comrade Julius is here, Comrade Tutu, also other comrades in your own respective caps that you may also be wearing. I was given a role that I must make my welcoming remarks. And Comrade Makosini pleaded with me that, please, my friend, please write it, because I know when you speak, you are going to make a keynote, and you are going to speak forever. And it's not about you. There's a keynote today. So I tried to, at least, to put my opening remarks written down also as well. I did not see as well, Comrade DP, that you are here, just joined us. You're also welcome, my brother. And like I've said, also if there are other comrades as well, you're welcome, comrades. Comrade Makosini, as we all know, that the African National Congress is the center of fundamental transformation of the South African economy, which must result in the empowerment of black people, most in particular Africans. We want all our cadres to be the agents for transformation and fiercely tackle the deepening economic inequalities in this country, and also enable our movement to address the high unemployment rate, which is creating social instability in our communities. I want to say, comrades, it was clear that the ANC remains committed to the implementation of the broad-based black economic empowerment. However, comrades, the NEC has made a correct observation that benefits of the BE have not been felt by all South Africans. It is against by all South Africans. It is against this background, comrades, that we support plans by the government to intensify rather than to relax the BE measures. Although as we are note that there may be others that are speaking otherwise. I must say that we want a government that increases its investments in black businesses and small, medium, and micro enterprises to grow and transform the economy. If we don't upscale small businesses, we will never be able to create jobs for our people, comrades. SMEs have a potential to create jobs and contribute towards economic growth. But regrettably, they have not been adequately supported. And in the coming Nazareth conference, Comrade Makosin and Comrade NEC's members that are here, we must address and change this. Here in Johannesburg, we're excited that the provincial government has not only made a firm commitment to revitalize the township economy, they have but also put resources amounting to millions of rands to support the township businesses. This is a step in the right direction. We need more interventions of this magnitude. Other issues that often make it difficult for SMEs to grow is the lack of access to finances, we all know. As the ANC, we should hold government accountable in this area of work to ensure that SMEs are fully supported. The private sector must as well come on board and fund SMEs, as it is their interest for small businesses to grow and employ more people. They can't continue reporting about huge profits margins every year, comrades, and fail to invest in the development and growing of small businesses. While we also know, comrades, that the COVID-19 has disrupted most small businesses, we were helpful when government of the ANC introduced a 500 million SMME debt relief scheme, which helped small businesses to remain afloat. We don't want any economic recovery plans to exclude small businesses. They must be preferred and I'll be fine, my brother. As I said, comrades, that we don't want any economic recovery plans that will exclude small businesses. They must be preferred and at the center of any government in all the procurement. If we were to achieve the goal of the National Development Plan for SMEs to create at least 90% of the targeted 11 million new jobs by 2030, we must ensure that government pays far closer attention to developing small businesses. Government must connect small businesses with the markets starting from here in Africa and ensure that their participation in global economy is realized. Comrades, having said this program director, I want to take this opportunity and welcome all of you. And I hope that we are going to have fruitful engagement, and we must never shy away, comrades, to confront matters that are stumbling blocks towards full participation of our people to the economy. Wherever we go, we must call for economic freedom in our lifetime. The economy must be inclusive and benefit for all its people, and that must happen now. Thank you very much, comrades.
Thank you very much, Comrade Bruce, for those remarks. I think one of the things that is very critical for us to note in Comrade Bruce's remarks is the role that each and every one of us has to play in ensuring that the ANC does not regress. The ANC does not go back from the promises that it made to the people. But more importantly, it is very important that we seem not to be on track in fulfilling the social contract that we had signed with our people when we said they must trust us with leading this government post-democracy. One of the things that he mentioned is the role of each and every one of us in ensuring that as we go to the conference in December, which is next month, and also as we are going to be embarking on the processes of BBGMs to formulate the policies and the positions that we want to reaffirm, and Comrade Andil, we reaffirm, we readopt, things that as the ANC and as the government we had said we're going to do, and we have not yet done. We start with reaffirming, but we don't implement. We have the best policies. We are held by nations and progressive and developed countries as a country with the best constitution. Of course, that can be debatable in terms of when they say we have the best constitution, are they saying it from the perspective that our constitution benefits them more than us? Those are some of the things that we need to look at, and particularly from a business perspective. We are going to call onto the podium Umam Daphne Mashilo Nkosi, who myself as a young woman, and of course now having gone past the age of young women in the African National Congress and also the ANC Women's League, looks up to. As the ANC, I can tell you we have assets that we have developed. We do not only develop, but Umam Daphne has struggle credentials that most of us know nothing about. The contribution that she made, and her family, by the way, Yagwa Mashilo, in ensuring that we attain our democracy and we attain our freedom, and us as young women, we are able to stand in platforms and be able to express ourselves and our ambitions without fear and without favor. We do not recognize such. Umam Daphne, more than being a businesswoman, she is a philanthropist. She invests a lot of the resources that she works hard for in ensuring that the people of South Africa and their lives, they are for the better. Ladies and gentlemen, help me to welcome Umam Daphne on stage. Thank you.
Malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi malibongwe. Malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi malibongwe. Program directors, comrades and friends, Comrade Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I've been intimidated by Comrade Julius. Please protect me. He's already said that I must not say much, but I'm going to disappoint you. Unfortunately, Makosini has given me a brief that I must talk about the challenges of women in business. And I'm just going to do that. Maniti bapi labafazi abasemachele yiti labaskona namhlanje. We are deployed cadres in business, if there's something like that. Comrades have been asked to speak on the strategic impact of women leadership in business and the value proposition thereof. In this regard, I would like to make 4 broad points. I think Comrade Bruce has actually summarized some of the challenges. Financial inclusion of small business, but there's a bigger problem. Financial inclusion of women in business. Before they can actually look at your project, what is at the back of their mind is the fact that you are female and therefore you don't belong. You only belong in the kitchen. The first question of women's leadership at all levels in society is not and should not be seen as a matter of theory. It is a practical necessity for the future of our country, the rest of the African continent, and the world. By the way, Africa will overtake China, India, in terms of population. We'll be sitting with 1.2 billion people in 2030. We need a plan like China. According to Statistics South Africa, there are 30.48 million women South Africans as opposed to 29.56 million men, which therefore means that there's more females in this country of ours. While this is not a large majority, it is a majority nonetheless. But more importantly, women do not need to be in the majority to be taken seriously as a group, particularly coming from a leader of society, the ANC. You are human beings made in the image of God, like our male counterparts, and as citizens, we are supposed to enjoy the same constitutional rights as men. As a matter of fact, the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa enjoins all, and in particular the government, to, and I quote, to recognize the injustices of the past. It is a historic fact that women have been oppressed as a gender, as black women, and as workers as well. So it's triple oppression. Implicit in this fact is that public policy redresses, measures born from a recognition of past injustices, must have a gender, race, and class dimension to them to deal with the past. It is in this context that the role of women in business, as in other areas of social life, is a practical matter. After all, society is an all-encompassing and diverse theater. As in nature, social ecosystems work best when they embrace diversity. In the natural world, diversity brings about the necessary levels of balance in the ecosystem, which in turn plays an important part in nature's capacity to self-replicate and self-sustain. In the social environment, diverse social contracts are more stable economically, politically, and otherwise. They are also more cohesive and centripetal because they cross-pollinate and are mutually reinforcing. Their combined strength is a source of resilience, for they mitigate the blind spots immanent to monolithic social settings. This suggests that as much as there is an economic and social cost to conscious decisions to women's empowerment, there must surely be a cost to conscious and unconscious efforts to their exclusion. You cannot play soccer with half the team. You can only win if you have a complete team. Secondly, the participation of women in business, in politics, in academia, civil society, and elsewhere is in and of itself a strategic development. It breaks ranks with a patriarchal value system which seeks to imprison women as kitchen serfs. Thirdly, women's participation brings about important diverse insights that are innate to women as a gender and social group. This is not to suggest that women are more homogeneous entities, nor am I advancing a bigoted chant. Precisely because men are social beings, socialized in specific socio-historical settings, they are, as a general rule, likely to take business and other decisions which are not only reinforcing social gender relations, but also ones which may not fully appreciate the needs and wants of women consumers. What do I mean by this? When Julius, you're looking for a business partner, naturally, you are not attracted to actually get a business partner that is female. The majority of men get their business partners from men as opposed to, because this is how we're actually socialized and brought up. We need to stop that. Fourthly, strategic or otherwise, There will be no impact of women leadership in business or any other sector if we do not fight for women's participation. According to the worldwide bureaucracy indicators, it says that female employment in the private sector is generally believed to have a U-shaped relationship, implying that female participation rates in the private sector rises with country incomes to a certain threshold. However, academics Jaya Chandran and Claudia Goldin have also argued that as the national income continues to rise, female private sector participation rates begin to fall. This points to two issues: the imperative of economic growth on the one hand, and the need for intensification of the gender struggle on the other. You cannot want to grow the economy and not actually deal with issues of gender. Our country still lags far behind with respect to the participation of women in the economy, particularly the backbone of the economy, which is two legs, agribusiness and the mining sector, especially in the private sector. In the fourth quarter of 2021, Stats SA reported that women accounted for 43.4% of employed South Africans. They accounted for a paltry 20% of board representation as directors of the JSE listed companies. And you'll recall that some of us in 2020, we marched against the JSE because we are calling for the inclusion of more women in boards and also for funding, particularly for those entities that are listed on the JSE, because it's one of the oldest and the biggest actually stock exchange in Africa. The public sector fares far better than the private sector. In June last year, the Interparliamentary Union ranked South Africa 11th in the world for women's representation at a parliamentary level, this being the second highest in Africa after Rwanda. With the exception of the 5th parliament, women representation in parliament has been a steady increase since 1994. The first parliament, 1999 to 2004, garnered 27.7 women. That's where we started representation. This was followed by 30% in the second parliament between 2004 to 2009. The third parliament, 2009 to 14, registered 30%, followed by 43% in the fourth parliament of 2009 to 2014. The fifth parliament, 2014 to 2019, saw a decrease down to 40%. This was, however, remedied in the sixth and current parliament, where women tribunes rose to 46% representation. Since 1994, the civil service has performed far better than the private sector. After a long walk, the sector has finally achieved a 50-50 representation for senior management. This is particularly DGs and all those areas. This is consistent with global trends. The public sector around the world remains a larger employer of women than the private sector. So we need to challenge the private sector to do more, because they have the deep pockets. Women represent 46% of the public sector workforce, compared with 33% in the private sector. Women are outnumbered by men in 130 countries, but they are nevertheless outnumber men in 55 of those countries. The fifth and last point is somewhat a repetition. The participation of women in all areas of society is a strategic necessity to society. Society needs the benefits of women's wisdom, potential, skills, and expertise. It is all the poorer without it. Comrade Booth has raised the issue of financial inclusion. It is one of the backbones if you are serious about the empowerment of SMEs in particular. We need to challenge development funding institutions like your IDCs. The IDC, if you look at was formed in terms of the IDC Act of 1940. It was started by the Broeder Bond after the poor white problem of 1923. They started the IDC because they wanted to industrialize the country. And if you are serious about industrializations, these are the agents or the agencies that we need to challenge so that they can bring back the D, which is development, in terms of their funding model. Because if you look at the IDC today, it's no different to any other commercial bank. The conditions of the loans, but also they don't look at social impact. Whether you started a company that has 100% social impact, they actually don't see that. They are more interested in the monetary value of what they've given you. So, it therefore calls on the ruling party, which is the ANC, the leader of society, to lead in the empowerment of women, not only as tag-alongs that you want to comply, that you are seen to actually have brought women, but as leaders who can lead from the top, not as deputies. It is time for us to change the status quo. It's 110 years later. We still, as women, are actually asking for inclusion in the leadership of the organization. Let us go back to the women of 1956 and actually claim our rightful place as leaders of our country, of our economy, of everything that we would want to see as women. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Daphne. Comrades, I come here being very afraid because I'm receiving a lot of messages from my comrades. Mama, I was representing Johannesburg SMME Chamber, as you know, about a minute ago, but comrades are complaining to say, but Comrade Makosen, you are out of order. We would want you to recognize us as delegates of Gauteng that are supporting Comrade Mama. So I'm coming here to apologize my comrades. In fact, even a delegate from my branch, Comrade David Motsepe, also told me, you're out of order. You need to recognize all of us. So, Mama, there are delegates from Sidibeng. There are delegates from Johannesburg. There are delegates from Ekurhuleni. There are delegates from Tshwane, Bobras. And then there are delegates from Western. So, Gauteng affiliates, Mama, we're all here. So comrades said I must come here and recognize them. So I'm here to recognize you, comrades. I apologize. Oh, there are also delegates from NYTT. And Free State is also here as delegates, Mama. We are here as delegates as well. So I think we needed to recognize that. And equally, the leadership of Ekurhuleni is very angry at me as well. There's an RWC, an ANC RC member who's also an RWC member. Memkete. I recognize you as the leader of Ekurhuleni in the ANC in Ekurhuleni. And also RC members, Comrade Mapule, who's also a Women's League RC member. Tshwarelo leadership, the ANC is recognized there Ekurhuleni as well, Tshwarelo. Also Comrade Isabella, who's also an RWC member of the Women's League. And then I've got to recognize this leadership, otherwise they can alimatata. Also an RC member of the Women's League, Mepolina Budibe. I must recognize you, Mama. And also a veteran, No Kobele, who's also a former ANC member, RC member of Ekurhuleni. Handle, my point is Ekurhuleni is also here, Ma'am, to support you. Also the zonal chair. Yeah, almost Amon Gulelo, Comrade Kenny, Bizolaka, Comrade Makosini, Viva. I must recognize you as well, leadership. And also, a lot of councillors of Ekurhuleni are also here. By the way, I agree we are in Ekurhuleni, comrades, so we've got to recognize that we're being hosted by them. I must also recognize that Sidibeng is here. Zonal leadership, Iago, Everton Zone is also here. And he came here with all his delegates from Midval and everywhere else. Comrade Vuse, Hlongwane, I recognize your leadership. Comrade Tshwane, all chairpersons are 5 zones in Mamelodi. Soshanguve, chairperson is here. Comrade Jaska. In fact, Comrade Justice. And then Atresville is also here. Chairperson is here. Chairperson of Mamelodi, Comrade Philip is also here. And Chairperson Yago Hamans is also here, of the ANC, who are also delegates. So I think I must recognize you, comrades, and I must apologize for having not mentioned this. So the leadership of the ANC is here in Gauteng to recognize you. As much as I had said, I stand here as the chairperson of a branch, and our delegate is also here, and the deputy chairperson of the branch is also here. So the ANC is here, to support you in Gauteng. Amandla.
Nati comrade Makosini was recognized as the disbanded ANC Women's League of Greater Johannesburg. We are going to recognize ourselves, comrades, as former leaders, former RC members, former RWC members, former spokesperson, former coordinator of the AIDS Women's League Young Women's Desk, and Kalanin recognize the You know, Ma'am Kosazana, we laugh at such things where we find our organization, particularly the ANC Women's League, in such a strategic region, Greater Johannesburg, being in limbo and being leaderless at this point because of the political dynamics that we are faced with in the African National Congress, where the strongest of women must be demoralized at all points. The women who rally behind other women, we must ensure that they don't find space to express their views. They do not find perfect platforms and structured platforms, recognized platforms, where they are going to rally constitutionally behind other women. We know the agenda. We have always been aware of the agenda, and we are not deterred by that agenda. We continue to be resolute, and we say our support for Umamu Nkosazana will not be shaken. When the ANC Women's League that was led by Umamu Batabile, Ubata, Dlamini, decided in the previous conference of the African National Congress that we are going to rally behind Umamu Nkosazana as the president of the African National Congress Women's League, we did not make a mistake. But the ANC had to ensure that that voice of a united ANC Women's League is not there. But as Koneni zethu singabo mama sibambile, we are going to continue to rally behind women who stand for what we stand for as women, who carry the aspirations of women, young women, the elderly, the disabled, the marginalized of our society. And when Comrade Daphne says the participation of women in all sectors and strategic sectors of our economy is necessary, this is what we are talking about. We will never derive transformation for our country and for our people until we have transformed the African National Congress that continues to think that indeed the role of women must be to deputize. And as delegates who are here who are women, if you are not careful, the agenda that is at play, if we are not strategic, if we do not mobilize ourselves, even though they intend to demobilize us, if we do not unite in our corners and bring out ubumbokodo bethu and say we are going to rally with women, we are going to end up with a situation that we had, where we only have 1 or 2 women in the top 6. And our agenda as women is to say we want an equal representation or more of women in the top 6. When we say that the top 6 is a structure, and most of the time they say the top 6 is not a structure. But if you look at it and you look at it carefully, how do the decisions of the NEC start? Is it not the top 6 that first meets to set the agenda for the NWC, to set the agenda for the NEC? Now, if you have 1 woman, and we believe when we talk about women, we're not only talking about women for the sake of just being women, we are talking about women who are pro-women. We are talking about Obama, Abafana, Nomam Nkosazana, who know what it is and what it takes to be a woman and to champion the interests of all of our society and our members. Now, comrades, and I'm appealing to women in particular who are here, who are delegates. Asingalali maqabane. We must never be caught sleeping. We can never have the hope of reaching the dream of having a female president in the name of Umama Nkosazana Dlamini, and we see it slipping in our fingers again. And yet we are 50-50 or more than 50% as delegation to the conference. All these things of financial inclusion of women, dealing with the problem statement of recognizing that patriarchy is at the center of why as women we are marginalized, that Umam Tefni was talking about, and how and what we must challenge for us to be able to ensure that as women we are included in the economic benefits of this country. We are not going to be able to achieve any of those. We are not. We need to stand. We need to challenge the status quo, and we need to ensure that we take it upon ourselves to deliver at the conference and deliver Umama Nkosazana as the president of the African National Congress. And with those words, comrades, I would like to welcome Comrade Palo to speak from the perspective of young people. Thank you.
Indelendlela oba indelendlela indelendlela yona indelendlela ifuna abalungile eyona indelendlela yona indelendlela yona indelendlela zana indelendlela ifuna ayabalungileyo ifuna bona balungileyo itsho ngoba indelendlela ngoba indelendlela 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 Amandla. Awethu. Amandla. Awethu. Wathinta abafazi. Wathinta abafazi. Roar, young lions, roar. Roar, young lions, roar. Long live Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, long live. Long live Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, long live. Mandla. Awethu. Thank you, comrades. Firstly, I'd want to greet all of the leadership that's here from the various RECs, from the various PECs. Want to greet Umamu Daphne, and I'd want to greet our Usongayo Namhlanje, Umam Nkosazana. I've been tasked to come and speak on behalf of young people. I want to greet my colleagues from the NYTT, Comrade Pinky, Comrade Tutu, and the PCPC member of Gauteng, of the Youth League, Comrade Nolthando Zuma. I hope, comrades, I will capture you well as I speak on your behalf. I never know why comrades send me as the youngest of that NYTT when they're here, but I hope that I do them justice. Now, if I was at an international conference or a gathering of South Africa's economic elite, I would come and speak about the rapid deterioration of the state of our country. I would begin by painfully speaking about the millions of South Africans struggling to put food on the table. I would speak about the majority young people withering away in a state of hopelessness owing to the increasing rate of youth unemployment. I would speak about the crime scene South Africa continues to be for women and the LGBTQIA community. I could speak about the unprecedented time we spent in the dark. I would go on, but today, I do not have to do this, as I am in a room of people whose lived reality is exactly what I have described. I do not have to explain our daily lives in this gathering. We, as young people, are growing increasingly and painfully agitated and impatient. When there are murmurs of reversals of hard-earned gains, such as BEE, when there are murmurs of the selling of Eskom, it means that there is something terribly wrong happening in the ANC. For some of us, our conscience will not allow us to stand and watch. We refuse to act normal in an abnormal situation. It is with this feeling and loyalty to the millions of landless South Africans that we have no other choice but to fight for the soul of the ANC. With the growing trend of coalition governance, gone are the days where the ANC enjoyed overwhelming majority at the polls. The lackluster leadership, corruption, leadership parading opulence among community members while they live in squalor has dented the ANC's good name. We can no longer watch as we field questionable characters, mafia boss-style mattress and sofa banks and farms to be fielded as presidential candidates of this glorious movement. This coming national elections are, I dare say, a do or die for the ANC. When we talk about doing, I don't know a better comrade who has a proven track record in implementation and cleaning up. Comrade Nkosazana has, from her time when she joined the struggle, her time in cabinet, her time in the AU, demonstrated an ability to lead, not through slogans, but through tangible work that we can all see. When the prospect of Comrade Nkosazana being president of the ANC crosses my mind, I begin to imagine that reality. I get an adrenaline rush. This would be what Comrade Yamkela would say, a razzmatazz, a humdinger, something we've never seen before. After 110 years of the ANC, it's time for a woman president. And as we gather here today, we all have a responsibility to carry this message of hope. It is our responsibility to rescue the ANC from itself and in turn South Africa. To you, Comrade Nkosazana, your bravery does not go unnoticed. It is because of you that we find strength to imagine a better South Africa. We will walk this road with you until victory. Amandla. Awethu. Thank you.
I'm scared of time. Paulo has dealt with us heavily, so we have to move fast. But I don't know if it's the easy or the big task that I'm going to do now, DP. We're going deeper to political. We're going to call some message of support. We're going to have a message of support from outside the province. But the person I'm going to call is very easy to to introduce. Is a revolutionary, is an internationalist, the former president of PYU, and the deputy president consecutively. He's a former deputy president of the Youth League. Is a current PC of ANC in the Eastern Cape. I'm speaking none other than the deputy president of the Youth League, the former deputy president of the Youth League, Combat Andy Lelungisa. Sfunu mnotho awukhola haya yasiphelela haya yasiphelela haya sifunu mnotho awukhola haya yasiphelela.
Amandla. No, thank you very much, Comrade Yamkela. I know you are also a revolutionary. Thank you very much. Masibulisa kumama wesizwe, a leader of our revolution, umama uNkosazana. Sibulisa na kumama uDaphne. Let us greet all the comrades who are delegates. Because if you are a delegate now, you are like a commodity. We are very important towards the 16th of December. Including the international community, will be waiting for the outcomes of the December conference. That's why we're saying, comrades, you are very important. We are not only important for yourselves, we are also important for the movement. We are also important for the African continent, because the whole world will be waiting for those outcomes. You must be able to shape the direction in this country. But I think what I'll be able to do, as I'm giving a message of support, I'll pose serious questions, which the senior leader of our liberation movement, Umama, she will be able to respond in those questions. Because I do not know whether we must be able to be examine, we must get psychologists to be able to examine our minds as Africans, especially in South Africa. I will tell you why I'm asking that question. Yeah, comrades, we had the Portuguese in the 14th century who came in our shores. We traded with the Portuguese in the 14th and the 15th century for more than 65 years in the 15th century to 1652, before the arrival of the Dutch East Indian Company in our shores. In fact, before the Portuguese, we traded with the Chinese. If you go to Mapungube, there's evidence which shows that we traded with the Chinese. But I'm posing this question, how did it happen? Just criminals were jailed in Europe, who came in 1652. But they took over our country. Just people who came with the boat, they took over, whilst there were Africans who have already settled in this part of the world. Those criminals, they were then joined by those who were part of the Berlin Wall conference, Berlin Conference in the 18th century, who also came and colonized us, especially the Britain. As we're sitting here, we're the only country, Mama, in the African continent where we never had what was called Independence Day. We only had what we call today the political breakthrough of 1994. If you interpret a breakthrough literally, it's like young kids who are playing outside with stones, or we are playing cricket, we'll just broke a window where just a small hole will come in that window. When you interpret it literally, the breakthrough is what we have. We never had independence. Luckily, we have been part of the AU, where you change the outlook of the AU. All other countries, they had their own Independence Day, where they were, the young ones were playing majorans. France, they were leaving the shores. Those were the Spanish countries who colonized some of the countries in the African continent were living. But in South Africa, it was different. It was also confirmed, just last month when the Queen passed away, when there was the inauguration of the new king in Britain. I think all Africans, especially in South Africa, all the channels were showing the funeral, including the inauguration of the king. It then shows that we are still a British satellite. We can try by all means to pretend that we are not under the British, we are still a British colony in this country. It's what we must be able to resolve. Because we can raise all other issues. Without resolving that question, we'll never resolve the South African question. Even the pockets of land in this country, they are still under the British, they are still under the British control. You'll go to Mpumalanga. There's a big war memorial graves. You cannot even take your own grandmother or your grandfather to go and bury them in your own place of choice, because we are still under the British. All the pieces of land in this country, they are still under the British control. That's why in Zimbabwe they could not address the issue of land question. Even in South Africa, we cannot address the issue of land because we are still under that control. Those are the issues, comrades, as we give a message of support, which they are very difficult, which we must be able to deal with. We must be able to examine the political breakthrough of 1994, what it means to Africans in particular and blacks in general. It's what we must be able to resolve if we talk about what is called the radical economic transformation. Any other issue, it will be superficial. Yeah, we are just managing a plantation in Xhosa Singono Mahlat. Abame egate nomanu vula kuzogawulwa ihlad. Our responsibility from 1994 until today, it is to manage that plantation on behalf of those who owns the means of production in this country, those who are captains of industries in this country. Our people, they are still paupers in their own land of birth. There's nothing different than like in 1913, when Sol Plaatje said, I wake up in my own land as a pariah in my own land of birth. There's no difference. Our people, they do not own means of production in this country. Those who can be able to afford is either they are working for government. Those who can be able to afford, others, they will be councillors because they are part of the patronage network. It's what we must be able to resolve. As long as we do not resolve the question of economy in this country, we do not resolve the question of land in this country, there will be no change. That is why women, until today, they are being undermined. We must never allow a situation where women, they are undermined, because if you can read all the revolutions, including the Russian Revolution, which we talk about, which was led by Lenin, the Bolsheviks, women, they're at the center of that revolution. Even in our own revolution in South Africa, women, they're at the center of the revolution. If you talk about Umamu Nkosazana, she was the deputy president of the biggest student movement in this country. As I've entered at the venue, there were a number of SASCO comrades who were outside. She's the founding member of that organization, which was transformed later, which is called SASCO today. That's why we're saying, Waye Mama, without fear, without favor. We are the only person in this country post-1994, after Umama Uwini, who speak without fear on the question of the economy in this country, who speak without fear on the question of land in this country. There is no one, people, they are not speaking open on the question of land and the question of the economy. As we go to conference, we have to be open. I've addressed a lecture, I think it was a University of Walter Sisulu, where I was talking about the arrogance of numbers. Because the ANC have been changed, have been reduced to a question of numbers. It has never happened in the history of the ANC where we'll have provinces who will pronounce people from provinces to be national leaders. If you want a person to be in the top 6 from a province, you firstly elect those people in the NEC. It has never happened. You can go to the minutes of Kabwe conference in 1985. You can go to the minutes of Morogoro conference. Even the founding conference of the ANC of 1909 and 1912, there are no people who are elected direct from provinces, where provinces they pronounce. As we speak here, the ANC is a federal organization. It has been federalized. It has provinces. The ANC have declined to a level where it has undermined the founding fathers of the ANC. Because the founding fathers, they built what is called a national organization, a unitary organization. The organization today have been federalized, where people, they are clapping hands for provinces when they are pronouncing people in provinces for a national organization. That's why we're saying those are the issues which we must be open, which they need to be addressed if we want to build a strong ANC. That's why I'm saying, as a senior member, at least you will be able to respond to those issues, because you know we are a revolutionary. We have the history. No one can be able to talk about your history. I know I was the president of the Pan-African Union. When we arrived at the headquarters in Addis Ababa, it was a chaos, like SASCO outside. I think they should have started their conferences either early today, but you can see there's no sign that they'll be able to start it today. Maybe they'll start it tomorrow. It was like the meetings of the African Union. We are talking about the heads of states. It used to be chaos. If a meeting is supposed to start today, it will start tomorrow. But when you arrived, you fixed that chaos. Until today, at the head office of the African Union, everything is in order because of your own leadership. But the unfortunate part, South Africans, they want to just bury their own hands, not to refer to that history. Today in the African continent, there's order because of your own work. Where we have led, there's stability everywhere. But because of chauvinism of men, women in this country, they must always be sidelined. Even in my own region, I always, as I speak open on any issue, when I was contesting, Abokumde Tutu, they'll remember, when I was contesting as the chairperson of the region, Comrade Baba Alwalobishe came in and said, I'm contesting. I then called her over at dinner. I said, are you serious that you are contesting? She said, Comrade Lungisa, I'm serious, I'm contesting. And then I said, no, it's fine. We arrived at the conference, I had the majority in terms of numbers. I declined. Everyone was complaining, they were phoning all over the country. I said, no, comrades, I cannot be part of comrades who are leading in the struggle on the gender question. When now is my name, I use chauvinism. I must be the example. Everyone was very angry. I said, no, I'll go and fight in the province. I'll go and fight in other platforms. That's why I'm saying all of us, we need to play that role in affirming women in our own country. Because we know the question of the triple oppression, the question of race in South Africa, the question of class in South Africa, the question of gender in South Africa, which needs to be resolved. In those few words, we're here, Mama, to say, we support you. You've got a track record. We will go to that conference. In that conference, especially those who are delegates, is a message which we have been communicating all over the country. We said in that conference, we are going to stand firm on the question of women. We are going to stand firm on the question of the generation. Because comrades are not going to be confused by comrades who agreed in the last conference. But because of COVID-19, there were then differences. Now we then join those differences. We can't. We are still the old force, which is called the NDZ. Those who are part of the radical economic transformation. We are not going to change because the material conditions have not changed. The same message which we spoke about towards Nazareth conference is still the same message which we are going to speak today. It's still the same message which we'll speak next week until material conditions have changed. You do not change a message if things have not changed. We are saying in those few words, Nama, I do not want to be long. I can see the two program directors who are very energetic. They want to take over. Sizamut ke mama sime now siyak support. Sizawuqhubekeka thina no Comrade Tutu no Comrade Phalo. Those are young radicals. We do not sleep. We meet even at night and plot the way forward. Tina will continue fighting. Ngalo mazwi ndiyabulela.
Thank you. Thank you to the only person I know whom people never confuse these things of former and present when they address him. He remains to young people the Deputy President of the African National Congress Youth League, Comrade Andile Lungisa. Without further ado, let us welcome Comrade Julius to introduce to us our keynote speaker.
Thanks, Program Director. Ke motelle le ka puo ke motelle, but allow me to greet all of you. Oh, thank you, Talenga Hudumedisa, our NEC member, Mengo Sazana, Tlamini Zuma, Kidumedisa, RECs, the ANC in Johannesburg, of the ANC in Ekurhuleni, including those of the ANC Women's League. Allow me also to greet the NYTT, led by Tutu Zuma and Palomina. Allow me also to greet leaders of branches of the ANC in the entire province. Allow me again to greet Mam Tiffany Gosi, a business leader in our midst of the Johannesburg SMME chambers. Before Chomi Agai ba disbanda, Garukaridlo ba disbanda. I'm told they misbehaving. Akosin, Chomi Agai dlole kova. Comrades, I don't want to waste time, but I had a memo, although I'm not going to start where the memo had started. For the sake of this program, allow me to call on the stage the First Minister of Health, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, the former Minister of Home Affairs, the former AU Chair, the current Minister of COGTA, Comrade Sazana, Tlamini Zuma. The stage is yours.
Amandla. Amandla. Viva ANC, viva. Viva ANC, viva. Malibongwe. Malibongwe. Wathinta bafazi. Uzokufa finish. Roar, young lions, roar. Qina msebenzi, qina. Comrade director, program directors, let me greet the leadership from REC members of the ANC, Women's League, RTT members, branch, zone, the delegates, but also our hosts, the SME Chamber of Commerce, Johannesburg. But Uteumako since Johannesburg, because this is Gauteng. So we're here. Let me say that I'm very inspired, and I'm very emboldened, and I'm very encouraged to see you here, because I know you have gone out of your way when your leadership pronounced differently. So I'm very encouraged and inspired by you, because I can see that the ANC still lives in you. So you don't know how I feel, because I can see that there are people in the ANC who still love the ANC, who still have an independent mind about the ANC. So thank you very much, comrades. But also, I know you are at the forefront of our struggle, because our struggle is not over. There is still the economic struggle. We did not struggle and fight just for the vote. We also fought to change the material conditions of the people. And those material conditions have not yet changed. So the struggle continues. Women are not yet free. And so South Africa cannot boast of being free until we are free. So the struggle continues. But also, since we are here invited by the Johannesburg SME Chamber, we must say that President Oliver Tambo said this, and we must always remember it. It is inconceivable for liberation to have a meaning without a return of the wealth of the country to the people as a whole. To allow the existing economic forces to retain their interest intact is to feed the roots of racial supremacy and exploitation, and does not represent even the shadow of liberation. That's what OR said. And we're still there. So the struggle continues. But of course, it should also be noted that the participation in the economy will not be meaningful if women are not part and central in that economy. As Umam Daphne, Sis Daphne was saying. Hey, Sis Daphne, koshwe nokubingelela, kade ngihleli nawe. Sis Daphne has really spoken about that. But also, I think we should remember that the emancipation of women, as Comrade Samora Machel once said,
is not an act of charity. It is a fundamental necessity for the revolution to succeed. So, but before I go further, I must also say that Thomas Sankara says that, and I quote, that the enslavement of women was born with the arrival of private property, owing to the transition from one mode of production to another and from one mode of social organization to another. Though conscious of this deceit, which imposed on them an unequal share of the burdens, women followed men in order to care for and raise all they loved. For their part, men exploited women's great self-sacrifice to the hilt. And of course, this was a historic defeat of the female sex. But you are here to reverse that. And you are here to reverse that. Now, the mode of social organization, which is in part continues to be woven into the social fabric, in that women are positioned as second-class citizens, not deserving to be afforded equal opportunities. And of course, South Africa won't have progress. There will not be the emancipation of the masses as long as women are kept in that position. So we say today, as we have said before, women must find equal expression in all levels of society, leadership, and in all areas of human endeavor, and particularly in our economy. Sis Stephanie did say you can't, I think it was her who said, you can't win if you've only got half your team on the field. Doesn't matter how good that team may be. If you put half your team, you are going to lose. And South Africa will never reach its full potential until women are part of every area of human endeavor. Even the Japanese, you know, not so long ago, when the Japanese economy was completely stagnating, the then Prime Minister of Japan, may his soul rest in peace, the late Shinzo Abe, called all the captains of industry and said, unless you include women in the economy, this economy is not going to grow. It's going to continue to stagnate. And talk to the nation, talk to the women. And he even coined a phrase, and he said they must have womenomics. And that's what they called it. And that's what got Japan out of the stagnation. So, are we surprised that our economy is not growing to the full extent? It shouldn't be. But let me just say that we're not asking for a favor, because sometimes it looks like we're asking for a favor. We are not. Our forebearers, we had women on this continent who fought the colonizers. The Ashanti warrior queen, Ya Santiwa, made a call to action against the British in that she mobilized the Ashanti troops and laid siege British mission at the fort of Kumasi. The brave female warrior reminded the men, and I want to quote her. She said, "If the men of Ashanti will not go forward, then we will. We, the women, will. I shall call upon my fellow women. We will fight until the last of us fall on the battlefield." Close quote. They fought the British that we probably couldn't fight here. So, and Queen Zinga of Angola did the same with the Portuguese. Queen Sheba of Ethiopia, Cleopatra of Egypt. And we also know, you all have heard of Timbuktu, isn't it? But do you know what Timbuktu is named after? It's named after a woman, Timbuktu, yes. So we're not asking for a favor. Not in the Battle of Adwa in Ethiopia, Ethiopians were never colonized. They fought. They fought. And in the Battle of Adwa, the very first decisive victory of a black African power, important event in the shared memory of the entire African population, demonstrated the spirit of unity, love, and friendship amongst Ethiopians, but foremost, it showed the genuine role of women. Empress Taitu Bitul stood beside her husband in the front battle lines and in devising strategic tactics which saw the Ethiopians winning the battle. Today, many of us refer to KwaZulu Natal as Elgamtania. Do we know whom Tania was? A lot of us don't know. We think maybe it was some king. Tania was a queen. Masiti Elgamtania, she was a king. Mama senza ngakhona. So, and elsewhere, Rosa Parks in America and many others, women have fought struggles. So South Africa must not pretend that women of South African women have fought struggles. We stand on the shoulders of great women in this country who were not afraid of the Boers even when men were. Yes. They were the first ones to go to the citadel of apartheid in Pretoria. Men had never done it, and they didn't think women would, and they did. So, but now let me come to the women themselves, us. Sometimes, because we've been so oppressed, so undermined, we forget our own power. OR reminded us of that power. He was very gender sensitive. He was a very gender sensitive ANC president. And this is what he said: women should stop behaving as if there is no place for them above the level of certain categories of involvement. Women have a duty to liberate us men from antique concepts and attitudes about the place and role of women in society and in the development and direction of our revolutionary struggle. So we must have confidence in ourselves and not think, oh, it's okay to be deputy SG all the time. Why? The ANC has decided that we are going to be deputy SGs. Aye. Perhaps this evening, allow us to say we're putting an end to that. We must put an end to that. The ANC has never had a woman president, never elected a woman deputy president, never a secretary general, never a treasurer general. No, 110 years, a century and a decade. No, that's enough. Enough is enough. Now or never, do or die as cheeky. Of course, we must also look at the economy, as was said. Comrade Daphne said the JSE is the biggest stock exchange, but who is in that stock exchange? It's not us. It's not us. When 94, it was 1%. 28 years later, it's only 3%. So, we have to do something about it. 3,000, according to the Vets University study, they say 3,500 individuals own 15% of our country's wealth. Other studies have shown that the top 10 together own more than 90% of the country's wealth. But the thing about it is that 10% is 10% of the minority. It's not 10% of the majority. It's 10% of the minority. Despite the BEE efforts, the owners of capital have chosen to ignore this economic goal of broad-based Black economic empowerment. And we haven't seen a lot of progress there. And consequently, the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition recently reported to Parliament that it was preparing to issue a non-compliance notices to a raft of JSE listed companies that were not filling reports about the BBBEE Commission as required by law. The Commission itself has not noted a decline in reporting since 2018 or an increase in reporting. So it's a sad state of affairs. But it's not just the JSE we must look at, the financial sector. When a woman or a young person goes to try and get money, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Because we haven't really done anything about the financial sector. How can we be a country that we are and have so few banks? We have a few commercial banks, and we hope that when we don't have command over the financial sector, which is the commanding heights of the economy, we think we can influence the transformation of the economy. How? It will not happen. You know, if you look at other countries, maybe I won't say China because people will say, oh, China. Let's go to Germany. Germany has lots of commercial banks, but they have even more local and cooperative banks because they understand that local economic development is fired by local and cooperative banks. What do we have ourselves? We don't have. That's why there's hardly any local economic development in this country. And we think it's going to happen automatically. It won't. I mean, even the Afrikaners, they understood that unless they had control of the financial sector, they will not change the life of the Afrikaners. They will not have a better life for Afrikaners. They established a whole range of financial institutions, from burying to housing to land to almost every sector. Because they understood that, and they said Afrikaner money goes to those institutions, but Afrikaners get financial access in those institutions. What have we created? Not much. So I'm not going to say it's easy, but who said the struggle was easy? Why do we think now it must be easy? I'm going to come to your question about land and all that. So just to round up on the women for now, I just want to again remind ourselves that women must be a building block, part of the building block of the economy, as they are the center of the family unit. And also we know, research shows us that when you give resources to women and you compare with men, there is a study that was done, not in South Africa though, so maybe South African men are better, I don't know. It shows that when you give a man and a woman, let's say you give them equal resources, the man will spend 30% of those resources in the family. That's great, isn't it? The woman will spend 70% of those resources in the family. And the woman will also spend her resources on the man if ubaba mhlawumbe uyaphuza imali yakhe angazazithengele neyicathulo uzomthengela. Angithi kunjalo. So you empower women, you empower the nation. So let me say something, because we don't have to invent at this 55th conference. Even if we didn't take any new resolution. What did you say? We reaffirm. Even if we didn't take any new resolution, but took a resolution to implement all the resolutions. And make sure that what was on the Freedom Charter gets done. The people shall share in the country's wealth, including the mineral wealth beyond this, beneath the soil. That's the Freedom Charter. Long time, but not there yet. The land, must be shared amongst those who work it. Now, land is a basic asset that all of us must have. All. I must have this piece of land that I'm standing on, otherwise where do I stand on? You build your house on land, you build everything on land, you do everything on land. So why should land belong to a few? We've taken a resolution. Expropriation of land without compensation. Not with nil compensation, because nil is a figure. Once you say nil, you are putting a figure. Then somebody can take you to court and say, no, it's not nil, it's 10. But how are we going to do it? Because we don't have 2/3. Can do a referendum. Yes, we can do a referendum, ask the people, should we expropriate land without compensation? Mobilize, get the population to decide. Because without land, it's going to be difficult. Upalo said people are struggling to put food on the table. Food comes from land. And that's why every country has land, because it's basic, it must produce food for people. The scientists have not told us that there's going to be another form of fuel for human beings other than food for now. So we all need it. And we're not like cars, we're not fueled once in a while. Sometimes you have to get your fuel 3 times a day. Some don't even get it 3 times a day, they graze the whole day. So food is both necessary, but also it can be a source of wealth, because everybody needs it, in the country, on the continent, and beyond. So land, we must find a way. But let me also say, comrades, who said we must stop being activists? If the struggle is not over, activism can't be over. So you can't say, we have elected them, they must see to finish. I'm not saying you must go and ban anything, no, but I was a student activist myself. I was a youth activist. Nothing comes for free. You struggle to get something, especially if somebody is holding it so tight, like land and other things. So I think in as much as we have a government, we must also assist the government. The other thing that I think is very important is that the Freedom Charter says there shall be work and security. So we have an obligation to ensure that men and women of all races receive equal pay for equal work. How come in this 21st century that women in certain areas are still paid less than men for work of equal value? Iceland have made it a crime to do that. As women, we must agitate for that in this country. As women, we must agitate for a gender-responsive budget. We must know for every rand how many cents are going to women, how many cents are going to the men. At the moment we say, oh yes, emancipation of women, but we can't even quantify how much money in our budget is going to that project. Uganda and a few other countries have done that. You can't pass your budget in Uganda unless the Equal Opportunity Commission has looked at it and has seen that it qualifies as a gender-responsive budget. So we must also do the same. For the sake of our children, for the sake of our families, we must do the same. But also we must leave the slogan, the people shall govern. Have we really unpacked what that means? The people shall govern. We didn't say the government shall govern. We didn't say the MPs shall govern. We said the people shall govern. I'm leaving you with that homework. Unpack it. What does it mean? What is your responsibility as the people in governing? I leave that to you. We'll meet again and you will answer. But since he introduced me as Minister of Court, I must say something about that. We've been told, and we have looked at local government, and indeed we have said there are problems. But what you are saying is, what is an ideal municipality? Because when things are wrong, you must correct them, but you must know you correct them to what end. So we are saying that an ideal municipality, because we're not talking about the building of the municipality and people inside, we're talking about the people who live in that municipality. We're saying an ideal municipality means that people must have a living environment, human settlements that are resilient and can withstand disasters. We've just seen what happened during the floods. So it's not only where they build, how they build, we must try and minimize loss of life and damage. We must enjoy safety, particularly for women and children. Because a place that is safe for women and children is safe for everyone. And that will minimize gender-based violence. And of course, they must have access to education, health, recreational facilities. They must have clean water, dignified sanitation, quality transport. They should have energy. Of course, now, we hope that one day it will improve. So energy, they must have access to information communication technology. They must be part of the fourth industrial revolution. And they must be part of a vibrant local economy that creates jobs, sustains livelihoods, and promotes inclusiveness. Of course, that means they must have food. And what's, here at home, you don't need to ask where Africans live or where black people live. You just see by the vegetation. In the rich suburbs, yes, there are few of us who live in suburbs, but the majority still don't live in suburbs. The trees are in the suburbs. Where we live, there are no trees. Why can't we just plant fruit trees in our yards and get government and all of us to work and plant fruit trees? That will clean the environment, it will give us fruit, and it will clean the air. Because it's not right that you can just see by the trees where the rich live and where the poor live. So I challenge all of us to do that. Even if we have to ask the Department of Agriculture, Environment to give us the trees, let's do that. But local economic development is critical. We must identify what do people have in that area. What's their comparative advantage? And build on that. The last thing that we're trying to do is to build a new city. 28 years. Can we point at a city that we have built from scratch? We don't have. We've expanded existing cities. Let's build our own city. We've identified 4 districts, and recently they've been gazetted as a region for development. O.R. Tambo, Alfred Nzo, Harry Kwala, and Uku. Part of the reason they were identified, 3 of them are amongst the 10 poorest districts in our country. And if you look at those areas, that's where our struggle heroes come from. That's where the Pondo revolt was. Those people must be thinking, 28 years, what have we got to show in our areas? But it's also very spectacular part of the country, beautiful. Coastland, fertile land, you name it. Interest of time, I won't go too much into that, but let's do that. At least it has been now gazetted as a region for development, so we hope we're doing some feasibility studies, and we hope that we can begin to do something there, which will absorb young people, create jobs, but we are also going to be launching the skills development, because it's not going to work to have a city, build a city, but no skills. We import welders like we were doing when we were building Gusile and the other power stations, importing welders and boiler makers. We must have our own skills. I think we must invest in our most precious resource. And our most precious resource is the people, the young people. That's a resolution of the 54th conference. I'm not inventing anything new, just reminding us what we have to do from the 54th conference. So in the interest of time, I will not go. I had a long message, but I will now go towards the end. Skill our people. Make sure that we are part of Agenda 2063. A lot of you don't know Agenda 2063, but Yamgela does. He used to come to AU as part of the youth that were informing us on what Agenda 2063 should say about young people. But we're cadres of the movement, all of us here. And what do cadres do? besides ensuring that the movement is kept alive, strong, but they must know politics. And Comrade Mark Shope used to teach us politics. And he used to say this, and I'll quote it: "I'm teaching you politics today, comrades, so that you can use it against me one day when I deviate from the policies of the ANC." Do you use it against us when we deviate? You don't even tell us. Why are you scared? So comrades, we must still be revolutionaries. The distinctive feature of a revolutionary cadre is a high level of discipline, dedication, and courage. Can't be a revolutionary if you are scared. I've never seen a scared revolutionary. We're all revolutionaries here. We shouldn't be scared. Shouldn't be reckless, but we shouldn't be scared. And we must have the courage in carrying out the tasks assigned by the movement. And such cadres are guided by our goal of a united, non-racial, non-sexist, and democratic South Africa. That's from our strategy and tactics. So we must also, in the 54th conference, in electing the leadership at all levels, we said we will do it according to the principles of service, track record, capacity, integrity, discipline, honesty, trustworthiness, and representativity as outlined in the Eye of the Needle. But I don't know whether we're there now, whether a lot of us will go through that Eye of the Needle. But I'm not there today. It's a story for another day. It's a story for you to decide, not for me. But we need to preserve our ANC. The things we do, we may survive them, the ANC won't survive them. We must ensure that the ANC survives, not for its sake, not for our sake, but for the sake of the people. Because it's only the ANC that can truly take care of the needs of the people. Do you think the DA will do? No. Okay. Do you want to have an alliance with the DA? Aye. So, but we're all leaders here also at various levels. And I want to just close by saying that Che Guevara said, at the risk of seeming ridiculous, let me say that the true revolutionary is guided by a great feeling of love. It is impossible to think of a genuine revolutionary lacking that quality. But if you love people, you will share with them. You will be generous, you'll be open, you'll be compassionate, you'll be truthful. That's a revolutionary. We should still be revolutionaries. As leaders, we should show humility. I've seen some tendency now in some of the people that you said arrogance of numbers, but I've seen also arrogance of position. But as leaders of our movement, we should remain humble. But we should be courageous, bold, and stand for what is right. And we should lead by example. But we should also be Pan-Africanists, because we're not an island. We're part of a continent. And our fortunes and future is intertwined with those of the continent. And of course, there's a lot to be gained by you being united as a continent, as Kwame Nkrumah once said. You unite or you perish as a continent. But it's not going to be easy. Must be ready to fight. There'll be difficulties. But at the end of the day, we must deal with the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. But we must also be gender sensitive, must be truthful, be honest, have integrity, and not be corrupt. Because we say we fight corruption. If we do, we can't be corrupt ourselves. But let me say that, let me end by quoting from one of my favorite revolutionaries, Fidel Castro. Said, telling the truth is the first duty of all revolutionaries. Deceiving the people, raising false hopes, always brings the worst consequences. And I feel it's necessary that I warn everyone against over-optimism, close quote. That's Fidel Castro. And then he says, a leader always puts people first. And I will end by his quote again, and this refers to you. No general is a greater asset than the people. No army is a greater force than the people. So, in the ANC, nothing is a greater force than the branches. I thank you.
Amandla. 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 All delegates. All delegates. All delegates. Amandla. Kwisintu ke bantwana bakwethu imvula is a good sign. After umama wethu has spoken, livumile izulu, lithi umongameli has spoken. Sibulele kakhulu for being patient with us, your program directors, for having attended this event, where primarily we wanted to also appeal to yourselves as the delegates towards the conference to say the people of South Africa are becoming impatient with the African National Congress. It is in your power as delegates to save our ANC. Never must we be subjected to what we saw in the city of Ekurhuleni, where we want to fight amongst ourselves as comrades because the opposition was our best bet in being able to reclaim the state power. If we do not rescue the African National Congress with the coming conference, ours and that of our children is a future that is doomed. We have not even written stories about the work that we have done as a liberation movement. Therefore, we ask, what will remain of us if we do not, as delegates of the conference, do the right thing, not only by the African National Congress, but by the people who give us the power to be who we are, by voting and supporting Comrade NDZ to be the president of the African National Congress. Comrades, with those words, let me thank you for paying attention to us. Let me thank you for taking the time to listen to what was shared. While it is raining, we hope that you will be able to engage with one another. If we are talking about economic empowerment and you have not introduced yourselves to each other, you may not know who is in this room, who has an opportunity that will benefit you beyond what we normally do as comrades in terms of engagement. The mistake we tend to do is to meet and depart without having introduced each other, tell each other what it is that we do, and how we can start something. Abo Comrade Makosini, they are here. They lead business. They are here to advise on how we do not only all of us go into the queue waiting for employment, but we become the creators of jobs. Ngalo mazwi ndikupingiwa kwanuma ndiyanibulele. Over to you, Comrade Yams.
Just do a quick one. I think the time I was a prefect. This thing of being a prefect always follow me, so I do the detailed ones. I think I want to first acknowledge a friend of Mama NTZ that came all the way from Ghana, who said he's here to show solidarity and support. And I think fundamentally this is one of the reasons that we must save the soul of the ANC, that the ANC remains an inspiration even in the continent. And we must always guard jealously when it relates to the ANC. It must not get off the road. It must be guarded with such jealousy that it deserves. So if you can stand up, Comrade Carl Mensa Hedo. I hope I pronounced the name. Thanks. Thank you very much. I'm between you and food, so I'm given this difficult task. So I'm told that we're all going to go and eat at the restaurant downstairs, and I think Ma's table is going to stay. But I'm going to give the formal vote of thanks to Makosini briefly, since you're between people and food. I think we're good to go. Makosini says that we're good to go. The food is downstairs in the restaurant, and all of us were asked to go there. Thank you for the evening, and drive safe and stay well.
Mm-hmm.